Good evening, good Shabbos, and welcome. January the 1st, 2021. May 2021 be a better year for us than 2020. We want to be optimistic. We want to hope for a better future. I want to tell you that some of the introductory readings that we will have in the service this evening have been taken from Gates of Prayer, a previous prayer book that we used. Let us begin now with the singing of Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat 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 Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat 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 Shalom, Shabbat 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 Shalom, Shabbat 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 Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat 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 Shalom.
O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness and of the impulse within us for justice and mercy, we pray that this hour of worship may be one of vision and inspiration. Help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who join us this evening in search and in need, all who bring the offering of their hearts. May our worship lead us to fulfill our words and our hopes with acts of kindness, peace, and love. Let us continue on page 24, those of you who have your books with you, with the singing of Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei El-Yon. Melech, Malachei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Malachei HaShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei El-Yon.
Each of us is a battleground for the struggle of sacred with profane. At times, the profane seems to win the day. Love and truth are debased. Reason, our chief glory, is turned to evil ends. And in us, the divine gift of compassion lies dormant. We fail to feel the strength. We fail to feel the anguish, the pain of others. How much we need you, O God, in days of trial. We need faith to live, faith in your creative power that overcomes chaos and stirs all life toward a new and better world. We seek you, O God, thereby we grow in vision as we elevate our souls beyond the sordid to the sacred. Your presence is the light piercing the darkness on our way, lighting our steps, making us see beauty and worth in all human beings. We continue with the Baruch Hu, page 28. Please rise. Praise Adonai, to whom praise is due forever. Praise be Adonai, to whom praise is due, now and forever. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, v'chokhmah poteach she'arim. U'bitona mishene itim, u'machalif et hasmanim, u'misader et hakokavim b'mishmerotehem, barakia kirtzono. Bore yom v'layla. Godel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Uma'avir yom u'meivi layla, uma'avir ben yom u'vein layla Adonai tzvaot shmo. El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch alenu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol, all these things your Torah gives to us. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. We continue with the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever. Please be seated, and we continue on page 36. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart.
You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your strength, with all your being. Set these words which I command you this day upon your heart. Teach them faithfully to your children. Speak of them in your home and on your way. When you lie down, when you rise up, bind them as a sign upon your hand. Let them be a symbol before your eyes. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and upon your gates.
I'm on page 39. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt. There is a better place, a promised land, but the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness. But there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. Micha Mocha.
Zeli anu ve'amu ירמיה חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גאון ישראל.
Page 43. Give us a place to rest, Adonai, our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael v'al Yerushalayim. Page 44, Vishamru. Those who keep Shabbat by calling it a delight will rejoice in your realm. The people that hallow Shabbat will delight in your goodness. For being pleased with the seventh day, you hallowed it as the most precious of days, drawing our attention to the work of creation. On page 46, we rise for the tefillah.
אלוהים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה כל אתה, רב להושיע, משיח הרוח ומוריד הגשם. מחיה חיים בחסד, מחיה הגומר והנבראים, סומק דוגלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים.
אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, קדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע, ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. We are on page 54. You set aside the seventh day for your name, the pinnacle of creation, and you blessed it above all other days, more sacred than all festival times. So it is written in your Torah. The heaven and the earth were finished in all their array. On the seventh day, God had completed the work that had been done, ceasing then on the seventh day from all the work that God had done. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, and ceased from all the creative work that God had chosen to do. Our God and God of our ancestors, be pleased with our rest. Sanctify us with your goodness, and grant us a share in your Torah. Satisfy us with your goodness and gladden us with your salvation. Purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Adonai, our God, grant as our heritage your holy Shabbat, that Israel, who sanctifies your name, may rest on it. Praise to you, Adonai, who sanctifies Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh HaShabbat. Page 36, let's say.
56.
56, excuse me.
There you go.
Praise
God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, atov shimcha, u'lecha na'eh lechodot. Page 60. Grant abundant peace to Israel, your people forever. For you are the sovereign God of all peace. May it be pleasing to you to bless your people Israel in every season and moment with your peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamevarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. A few moments of private silent prayer. We pause for a moment to pray for those who are ill. We think in particular of those who are suffering from the coronavirus. We pray for all those who are trying to take care of them and giving them hope for the future. We mention in particular members of our congregational family who are seriously ill. And I would like to mention the names of Ralph Einstein, Norman Gross, and also Rabbi Stanley Davids. Mishaberach avotenu ve'imotenu Avraham Yitzchak ve'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, ve'Leah, hu yivarech et hacholim. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill and grant all of them a refuah shlema, a complete recovery soon. Let us continue with the singing of this Misha Berach.
Sure.
following prayer is also from Gates of Prayer. Bless, O God, this congregation, those who lead and serve it, those who contribute to its strength. Bless all who enter our community, that worship offered here may be worthy of your greatness and your love, and that all who seek your presence may find it. For the joy of community, the gift of diversity, the vision of harmony, we offer our grateful thanks. Bless this land and all its inhabitants. Prosper us in all our undertakings. Be with those whom we have chosen to lead us, that they may strive to establish justice and opportunity for all, and labor to bring peace to the family of nations. In this week's Torah reading, we go over and review Jacob's deathbed speech to his sons. And in the Haftorah reading, a similar theme, David's deathbed speech to Solomon. This fits nicely. By coincidence, it wasn't planned this way, that the university classes that we offered dealing with ethical wills overlaps these two deathbed speeches. In addition to our will regarding our physical possessions, we may want to pass on or recommend or demand certain practices and values to our children after us. I am going to read to you the first section of this week's Haftorah from the book of 1 Kings chapter 2. When David's life was drawing to a close, he instructed his son Solomon as follows: I am going the way of all the earth. Be strong and show yourself a man. Keep the charge of the Lord your God, walking in his ways and following his laws, his commandments, his rules, and his admonitions, as recorded in the teaching of Moses, the Torah Moshe, the Torah of Moses, in order that you may succeed in whatever you undertake and wherever you turn. I am focusing on David's ethical will, and in many writings about Jewish ethical wills, this section from this Haftorah is mentioned as one of the early examples. I'm focusing on this because what do we wish for our children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren? We had a class on Wednesday, a university class, that was far more successful than I ever would have imagined in terms of response and discussion afterwards. And some of us felt it might be worthwhile to continue the conversation. So putting in an ad for what's going to happen next Friday afternoon in our cocktail hour. And we agreed that if you don't have a cocktail with you, that's okay. Coffee or anything else will do. In that session, I am going to be speaking about some guidelines, some questions that all of us could use regarding ethical wills. This will all be in your e-blast, so you can see the text that I'm talking about. And I will also share with you some thoughts of my own of what I would like to pass on to whatever descendants I have. I've been scribbling out notes for some time on this topic, and above and beyond what all of us would want to say, now, don't make the mistakes I made. Be a decent person, be charitable, care for other people, and so forth. Look at what David says to Solomon and understanding it in its context and the way the rabbis understood it. Live according to Jewish practices. I'm not going to get into the very touchy subject of whether we would even dare bring up that subject with some of our family members. That's for another time and another place. But if an ethical will has any Jewish value whatsoever, It should have Jewish content above and beyond what we would hope from anyone. We want people to be kind. We want people to be compassionate. But wouldn't it be so absurd to say we hope that our children and grandchildren will follow in the paths that we have set, assuming we aren't too ashamed of our paths, and that we support our Jewish organizations, that we support our synagogues, that we are Jewishly observant? There is a kind of teaching that can come from words. We're all familiar with that. More significantly, the teaching through example, through deeds. Now, I know because of the coronavirus, we have not been inundated with tourists, family members, and so forth over this winter break. Many times, children bring the grandchildren down here for a couple of nice weeks. It hasn't been all that warm, but in northern terms, this is very warm. And I have dealt with this phenomenon, and I've shared this with some of you. When people say to me, oh, you won't see it as at services this week, the family's coming in. Well, in a serious discussion that I had with some people who are looking forward toward different advice for a Jewish future, you tell your loved ones, when you're here, come to the service with me. It won't be that bad. If you have season tickets to the symphony, and I know the symphony's having problems too, you will say to your loved ones, I'm going to the symphony and I managed to get extra tickets for you. So we're getting extra tickets for you to come to a religious service. We teach by example. And in the discussion that I had, and this was with, I think 1 or 2 members of the congregation were there, but with others, I said, whenever I visited my father, and I was visiting over Shabbat, let's say during a vacation time of mine, I just knew it was a foregone conclusion. Nobody discussed it, nobody asked. I would go to the synagogue with him. David instructs his son Solomon, keep the commandments of God, follow in the paths that God has taught us. We have a great and wonderful heritage. May that heritage live on in the ethical wills that we leave our children. And when we leave our children, and I shouldn't just say our children, I know our grandchildren, in many cases, thank God, our great-grandchildren, whatever financial resources we leave them, let us teach them that to whatever extent they use that for themselves, and why not, they also set aside a little bit extra to support worthwhile causes. It has been the basis of so much of our Jewish tradition. So much so, all right, it's Shabbat. But just before Shabbat, people would also put aside some money for a worthwhile cause. And many of you know the tradition of having a little box, the pushka, from either the Jewish National Fund or many other Jewish causes, where people would always put a few coins. We may be able to do a little bit better than that just for Shabbat. And we are planning to reactivate a JNF box campaign in our congregation. We can show our children and our grandchildren through our deeds how important it is to help others. So I'm going to try to build on what I consider a very wonderful success the other day. I'm going to share with you some thoughts, and I'm going to share with you some questions. And in addition to the questions that you'll see in the e-blast, here are a couple that are very relevant right now of what we can teach the next generation. In the past 9.5 months, our lives have had to change radically. What good things came out of all of this? What is so positive, whether it's as a result of the pandemic or not, and we leave out our new technical skills in being able to Zoom, that's important too. But maybe we could say not just the skills of being able to Zoom, but being able to be in touch with relatives, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren on the other end of the country or even the other end of the world. And then we might even say, what have been the biggest challenges, personally, religiously, Jewishly, spiritually, that we have faced? What have been, and we want to share this with our children, they want to know us, and maybe they don't know us well enough. What have been the most successful and exciting moments of your life? What have been the most disappointing? And how can we develop a chain of tradition where we carry on what David said to Solomon, keep the commandments, the precepts, the direction that God has commanded us. May all of us have the strength to sit back for a moment and pause and say, what are we doing with our lives, and what is it of our lives that we want to pass on to future generations? We are going to turn now to page 283 for those of you who have your books, and we rise for the adoration.
Let us adore the ever-living God and render praise unto you, who spread out the heavens and established the earth, whose glory is revealed in the heavens above, and whose greatness is manifest throughout the world. You are our God, there is none else.
A prayer before the Kaddish. In nature's ebb and flow, God's eternal law abides. When tears dim our vision or grief clouds our understanding, we often lose sight of God's eternal plan. Yet we know that growth and decay, life and death, all reveal a divine purpose. God, who is our support in the struggles of life, is also our hope in death. We have set God before us and shall not despair. In God's hands are the souls of all the living and the spirits of all flesh. Under God's protection we abide, and by God's love are we comforted. O life of our life, soul of our soul, cause your light to shine into our hearts and fill our spirits with abiding trust in you. We remember the recently departed our congregational family, Mildred Field, Margot Colville, B. Einstein. We remember those whose yahrzeits occur at this time: Phyllis Berger, Sheldon Bilgray, Sadie Cranman, William Davis, Sylvia Feinberg, Seth Gaines, Murray Goldberg, Irene Gordon, Anna Height, James Katz, Minnie Cohn, Mortimer Lieben, Dr. Cecilia Elman Lebo, Alfred Mazer, Jacob Medveen, Katya Moore, Irene Newlander, Ross Sandler, Alice Weinbaum, Morton B. Weiss. And if you have additional names, just say them out loud to yourself. And we now turn to page 294 as we rise for the Kaddish. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shamei Rabbah. Alma Divrach Cherutei v'yamlich Malchutei. V'chayechon uvyomechon u'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael. B'agala u'bizman kariv. ve'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevarach le'alam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach ve'yishtabach ve'yitpa'ar v'turmam v'itnaseh. V'tadar v'talei v'talal. Shmei dekucha riku. Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechamata. Damiran ve'alma ve'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. May the source of peace grant peace unto those who mourn and comfort the bereaved among us. And let us all say, Amen. Please be seated, and I'm now going to call on Stuart Sinai, the president of the congregation, to share a few words with us. Do we have Stuart?
You do. I have to,
Okay.
I had to
Okay.
find the button.
I
Thank you all for being,
go ahead. Yes,
Okay.
go ahead.
thank you all for being with us tonight. And thank you, Rabbi, for your always relevant and very interesting and really tonight very thought-provoking comments. I'm not sure my children would care what I say. Certainly not during life. Maybe sometime later. And thank you, Kai and Ann, for that beautiful music and song. Every time I hear Kai sing Ratzeh, I don't know, I just don't want it to end. I want to keep playing that record over and over. And so, yes, as the rabbi said, today, our secular new year begins. And we could always look back on that, on 2020 and find a lot to complain about, but we're going to look ahead. And we have a lot actually to be thankful for during this past year. Almost everyone, our members, stayed with us, renewing their membership and making contributions as if nothing had changed. Our rabbi took on extra duties and responsibilities and did not leave the field for even a moment during this entire time. He took no time off during this year. He and Corinne and Spencer were there for us 24/7. Thank you, Rabbi. Our executive director, Isaac Azarad, was also on duty 24/7. During the year, he applied for a COVID-19 and federation and community grants that helped keep us solvent, offsetting the loss of revenue that we normally would enjoy from, of course, the various events, including the gala and other things, which we could not hold and won't be properly holding this year either. And then, of course, there's Alan Goldfarb, who's always at services on Saturday. And Alan is at the temple almost every day, making sure our building is thoroughly sanitized several times now, making sure the carpets were clean, the ducts were clean, and supervising all the mechanical building and security improvements we've made during this almost 10 months we've been closed. And of course, we have our officers and directors who've kept this ship on an even keel. And a special thank you to Marion Levine, who heads our membership committee and began our popular Shabbat dinner program, which, by the way, begins again next week. And again, I just want to mention, I want to double up and mention all of our members. I know all of you who stayed with us, paid their dues and made generous extra contributions. And during this time, we started with a lot of programming, even more than we had previously, that I think has kept us together. That Friday night, which again comes again this Friday, this next Friday, our happy hour gets incredible participation, and we got to know people that in a fashion that would perhaps we would never know. And this week on Tuesday, January 5th, the rabbi's class again. I call it anything Jewish you were afraid to ask your mother. And then on also on Wednesday, January 6th, we have on January 6th, we have 90, the rabbi's Tuesday, January 5th. On Wednesday, January 6th, we have at 2 p.m. Rabbi Kasdan's class as part of our Eisenstadt Mini-versity, presenting a particularly existential and relevant discussion concerning alleviating suffering, especially in this COVID age. Prolonging suffering or choosing death. Quite a controversial issue, which Rabbi Kasdan takes on quite well. And also coming Wednesday, January 6th, we have 92Y beginning at 6 p.m. with a discussion following at 7:30 that we can all join in. Being Jewish in France today, especially, again, topical with the raging anti-Semitism that's occurring in France and a number of people from France emigrating to Israel. So we've got a lot going on. I hope that you'll all enjoy it. Oh, I want to mention something else on Sunday, January 10th, the Men's Club, of course. And so again, we have a whole lot going on. We didn't have going on before, much more than we had going on before. We had wonderful programs before, but we've really filled in trying to keep you all engaged and really enjoying each other. And without further ado, I want to wish you all a meaningful Shabbat. Stay safe, stay well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. And let us conclude this part of the service with the singing of L'chilach. May this Shabbat, may this year be one of health, happiness, success, peace, and safety. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May the Eternal One bless you by protecting you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. Good Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for joining us. 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, Shabbat morning service. Good Shabbos.
Shabbos. Shabbos. Happy New Year.